Welcome. Would you like to introduce your name, course, year, and university?
I'm Lucy Pidsley. I am my third year student doing events management at Bournemouth University, and my hometown is Cheltenham.
Okay. Could you remind us of the course you're currently studying?
Events management.
Why did you choose your course?
I always kind of grew up in and around events in the industry. My dad's heavily into events and my mum is. So it was just kind of a natural career path for me. And I did tourism as a A-level, and it just seemed the right kind of path. And I love the fact that in events management, it is very management based, and with management, you can take it in any direction. You don't have to stick to events. You could go off to project management, tourism management. So it just seemed a very broad but pathway, really.
You've now remind us of what year you're in now?
I'm currently in my third year, so I'm on placement at the moment.
So that means you've had 2 years of your course so far.
Yeah.
What have you thought about your course?
I personally really enjoy it. It's very much a glamorized business course and management course. So we do the maths, the finance, the economics of how to run a business. And
Okay. Oh,
let's plan events. It gives you the underground to build up careers later on.
okay. So you said you're on your third year on your placement year. Could you tell us where you're on your placement and what it was like the process of getting your placement?
I was one of the people who were heavily hit by the COVID and the whole world going into lockdown and industries closing. So I came home when lockdown happened. And so I did the last few months of my second year at home. And I decided that it was best to look for placements around my hometown so I could live with my mum and dad. And I struggled to find a placement. You type in an email saying I'm looking for an events management placement, but everywhere would be like, there's no events, COVID's happening. No one wanted to take on a student or an intern when their business was so unstable. So I definitely struggled with finding a placement, but I got really lucky, and I was giving up hope, and I just sent out this email to this incredible company and was just like, can you help me, please? I'm struggling to find a placement. And they were so lovely. And the guy rang me back the next morning and was like, we don't have a placement, but we can try and create something for you. So I currently work at Farncombe Estate in Gloucestershire. Half of it's in Gloucestershire, half of it's in Worcestershire. They've got 3 hotels, and they created this amazing placement where I work in 4 different departments across all 3 hotels. So I've done bits of housekeeping, I've done restaurant, and when hotels reopen in May, I am going to do front of house, and then hopefully a little bit of events. Okay. So it's good. I was very, very lucky.
What advice would you give to students wanting to and about to do a placement year?
For placement years, that's a difficult one. Is don't go immediately with the career or the not industry, but so for events, you want to do weddings. Maybe don't go looking for a company that only does weddings, because then the only experience you'll get is only doing weddings. And you're not
like the pathway. Don't close your pathways on one specific category.
Yeah, exactly. Go for a company that's really broad and can offer you lots of different experience, because otherwise you're going to get stuck just doing that, and you won't actually know if you prefer working in a restaurant or in the front of house. You'd just be close to that one pathway. So definitely look broader, definitely.
Okay. If we now go into your university, could you remind us of the university you're currently studying at?
I go to Bournemouth University.
What are the best and worst things about studying at Bournemouth University? Starting off with the worst.
That's different. The worst thing, I can't really think of a bad thing. I think it's definitely personal opinions and personal views, and Bournemouth isn't very much so you look at places like Liverpool or Manchester, they're built for students and you get good student vibes, whereas Bournemouth is definitely not quite there yet, and the accommodation can be quite expensive, and it's not set up very much for student life. It's more holiday destination-y kind of place. So that's probably one thing that's negative.
And the best things then?
I've got a few best things. I personally love the fact it's not built for student life, because I myself don't call myself a typical student. I'm not one for clubbing and all of that. So I love just going to the beach, and I love how relaxed it is. And when you're at the campus, everything is so close. The campus is very compact, and the library's only there. They've got student stuff just there. They've got their own student pub and restaurant. So when you're on campus, you've got everything you need. But then the beach isn't far from campus. Your accommodation generally isn't far from campus. It's all
Close.
yeah.
And if we now go into the accommodation, where did you live in your first year?
I chose Cranborne.
What was it like living in Cranborne?
Cranborne was and is probably, I think it's like the second oldest accommodation.
Okay.
So there's a lot more modern, and in the last few years they've built some pretty nice new accommodations.
So how would you describe it though, for you living there?
For me living there, I didn't personally enjoy first year, and the accommodation didn't help in the fact that I didn't have the best flat. You kind of go with this imagination that it's all going to be flat lunch, dinners, and we'll all have fun and
have good flatmates.
Have good flatmates. I didn't really have good flatmates.
Okay.
So I had one girl, and we're best friends, and we've lived together for the last 2 years. Well, last year we lived together, and I'm going back to live with her next year.
Mm-hmm.
So she was the one good thing about Cranborne for me, but it was close to everything you needed with Cranborne, and it was one of the cheaper options. So it gave you everything you needed. It would just probably be a lot better if you had good flatmates.
Not being specific, but let's say, what are some things students could run into with flatmates?
We didn't really have, they try to match you with people similar. So the girl I lived with last year, she does tourism management. So we were both very similar in our courses and the course directions. But there was 3 girls, 3 boys, and the boys were very independent, and they were all really different. So they just went off with their own friendship groups.
Okay.
We never really had the initial
flat orientation to do stuff.
No, that never really happened, and we all just did our own thing. So it never really.
And in your second year?
My second year, I lived with the girl from first year and 2 of her course mates.
So in a house or?
In a house. We in Wallisdown, which is literally a straight road walk. It was about a 15-minute walk from the university campus. We chose Wallisdown over Winton, because Winton is the typical student accommodation village. The students are kind of taken over, and we didn't really want to live there. So we went to a different village, but still just as close.
I'm going to say, what was it like going from student accommodation, obviously Cranborne, to now a house of 4? So you went from 6 people to 4 people, 6 flatmates unchosen to 3 other flatmates chosen. So what was that difference like?
Oh, to me, it was the best thing. It completely changed my kind of attitude towards it all. I felt comfortable. It was like going from living in a scummy flat to living in a really nice house with girls. We put candles out and made it homely, and we all cooked each other's dinners and had a laugh. So to me, I much preferred accommodation in second year to first year. It works so much better.
Okay. If we now go into the Bournemouth area, obviously pre-COVID, could you tell us about the Bournemouth nightlife?
Bournemouth is known for their freshers. They go pretty hard and pretty wild in their first 2 weeks, which hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm an August baby. So I turned 18 about 2 weeks before I went to uni. So it completely opened my eyes, because I come from the Cotswolds, which doesn't have the greatest nightlife. So I just suddenly got thrown into nightclubs and drinking. And
what was the club for you?
Cameo. If you go to Bournemouth, you'll soon learn what Cameo is. Cameo Wednesdays. It just, for me in freshers, it was incredible. But then as soon as workload started, and also the fact I didn't have the flat, because flats go out together and all the girls get dressed together. I never had that. So I kind of, luckily there was a girl who I knew from hometown who went to uni. So I joined in with her in her flat. but it just kind of became so much of an effort. I had to always go over to their flat, and it just it dwindled out a bit for me, and workload got a bit much, and clubbing wasn't really for me, I kind of realized. And that's one thing I am quite passionate in, is the fact that a lot of people think the expectation of uni is to go clubbing and party and have a party life, and I always thought that was what it was. And you kind of do have to realize that maybe it isn't all about clubbing, because I think it's quite heavy in Bournemouth, the whole clubbing and partying lifestyle. It doesn't suit everyone, but that doesn't mean you can't go to uni and you don't have to have fun. I have just as much fun not going clubbing than people who do go clubbing, if that makes sense. So that's one thing I'm quite keen on telling people.
And if we go into the shops, for your general shopping, everyday items, what was it, more traditional shops or chain shops?
Definitely chain shops. In your first year, all the first year accommodation is generally built around this massive Asda. And so you just go to this massive Asda every day and get what you needed. So
and if you're going to the restaurants, again, is it more chain or is it more local traditional?
The centre of Bournemouth town, which is in walking distance from the accommodation, that's quite heavily chained. You get all your chain restaurants and your kind of the takeaway chains and stuff. But around the student accommodation, around Cranborne, there was quite a lot of little tiny family run restaurants and stuff like that. So it's quite balanced, actually, I think.
Okay. If we now go into the advice, what general advice would you give to students about to study at university?
To study at university would be go for something you're passionate in, something that you actually are going to want to do the research in, the reading. You're going to have to write about it a lot and learn about it. So do something that you actually feel like could take you somewhere in your future. And that's why I chose management, in the fact that I have to study management for 4 years, but after I've done that, I can go anywhere with management. So
that freedom of pathway.
Yeah, exactly. It's rather than studying one certain thing for 4 years and then realizing that actually I've now got to do that for a lifetime. If you go for something that you feel like you actually are going to want to do, then you can go anywhere with it.
What advice would you give to students about to study at Bournemouth University?
Don't turn 18 the week before you go. No, Bournemouth is incredible. I looked around a lot of universities before I went, and I appreciate that with the students who are coming this September, they probably haven't been able to look around many universities with COVID. And I had my heart set on another uni. I went and I looked and I didn't like it. And I was like, what am I going to do? And Mum was like, oh, just go and have a look at Bournemouth. I looked around Bournemouth and I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm happy here. And it was just a lovely town. It had a lovely feeling. And you've always got the beach to escape to. I think Bournemouth's gorgeous.
What advice would you give to students about to study your course at university?
Events management, because my friend does tourism management. They're very similar, but different. I think with events management is don't go in thinking you're going to plan a lot of events, because you don't. You have to learn the maths and the finance. I've done 2 finance units. I've done 1 economics unit. It is business, really. So don't go in thinking you're going to be planning parties and weddings, because you're not.
One question I just want to go back to is about the Bournemouth area. Is there anything else you think students need to know about the Bournemouth area aside from what we spoke about previously?
I think it's quite safe. There's a lot of the female kind of being worried to go out at night and stuff. But because I didn't have the flat, I generally sometimes would have to walk back from going out clubbing by myself. And I personally never had a bad experience, because there was always people around and all the accommodations are quite close. So there's always people hanging around outside accommodation. So I think Bournemouth's quite a safe town to live in as a young female or male student.
Okay. You chose going to university over an apprenticeship / going right into work. What path do you to make this choice?
Generally because in the management and hospitality and events industry, if you go into it as an apprenticeship, you generally go from getting a job, a waitress, and work your way up to managing the restaurants and managing front of house, that sort of thing. So to me, I've worked in this industry before, and so I got the ground experience, but with my course came the placement year. So I'd get the degree along with experience, and I'd already got experience. So it just seemed the right way for me. And the fact that you do actually, by doing this course, learn more fundamentals that you can take into the business. So on my placement year, I've taken in some of what I've learned from my first and second year, but then actually my placement is going to help me with my final year. So it does
kind of help each other out there.
Yeah, definitely. Doing the degree, the sandwich course degree was quite a good option for me, definitely.
What do you think the best A-levels / subjects are for your course?
I don't know. I came from a college, so I did tourism A-level I did that as a BTEC, and I did photography A-level. So I came in quite broad. I didn't come in with much event degrees or qualifications. But once again, because it's management, you could come in with business, you could come in with a bit of maths, you could come in with tourism and events like I had. You could come in with a lot of different backgrounds, because management can take you in a lot of different directions anyway. So it's just, I think it was a good broad one as well.
At this point, I let students have what I like to call a free-for-all. You can say what you like about what you want. You can give advice, you can say something smart, you can say something dumb. Literally, the floor is yours.
It would definitely be for me in the fact that I personally didn't really want to go to university when I was studying at college. It just seemed like the next path. I didn't really want to go in and get a job in this industry, because to me, I kind of felt like you'd be stuck in a rut. So it kind of seemed logical to go to uni, but I wasn't even sure until the morning my mum took me, and I was just like, give it a go. What are you going to lose? You might as well give it a try. So I did, and it to me was quite a rough roller coaster to begin with, but I just took it day by day, and that most definitely helped. And I made friends with the girl in the room next to me, so it was me and her versus the flat versus uni. You've just got to take it day by day and don't feel the pressures of the other students. Like when going to uni, you have this imagination that, oh, it's going to be wild and we're going to go out and you're going to make so many friends and it's all just going to be like this whole big American movie picture scene, where it's not. You just got to go in with open mind, limited expectations, and just go day by day. And I absolutely love it. So today it's different, really. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'm plugged in.
Amazing. Thank you.